Hi, I'm Julie Ross,
And I'm Gregory Abbey.
and you're listening to the Parenting Horizons podcast.
Julie is a longtime parent educator and counselor.
And Greg is an actor, writer, and director, and more importantly, a parent just like you.
Through conversations covering a range of different topics, challenges, and roadblocks, we hope to give you a few of Julie's tools that might just help make parenting a little bit easier.
And look, nobody's perfect, and parenting is challenging to say the least. But with a few skills under our belts, we just might be able to be good enough parents and enjoy the journey and our children a little bit more in the process.
Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Parenting Horizons podcast. As always, I am joined by the esteemed Julie Ross. Julie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Greg. I had a great holiday season, and that set me up for being in a good mood for 2023.
Good. I hope it continues. I hope you can hold
Me
on
too.
to it.
Me too.
So today we're going to be talking about developing healthy relationships with your kids. And we're lucky enough to have another guest today. Today we have with us Dr. L. Carol Scott, who believes that relationships are at the heart of all our success. Dr. Scott is an international best-selling author. She's a coach, a trainer. She's a TEDx speaker, and she is a keynoter. Dr. Scott, thank you for being with us today.
Hey, good morning or good day. I don't know what time of day it is for the people listening. So hello, Greg and Julie. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. Before we dive into our conversation, can you just tell our audience a little bit about your journey, your path, and how you came to where you are today?
I grew up kind of middle class, middle America in the Kansas City area as a child of a family full of dysfunction and divorce and abuse and lots of toxicity. And when I went to college, which was just sort of the expected thing to do in my family, it was no question that I would go to college, although I thought, gosh, a Eurail pass sounds good. I did go to college, and I thought I would probably be a shrink. I was going to be, a psychiatrist or a psychologist who did therapy. And as one of those classes that you just take as part of fulfilling requirements, I took child development, Introduction to Child Development. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience of something in your life sort of grabbing you by the spiritual shirt front and saying, "Come with me now." But that was what child development did to me. It said, "This is where you must go." And I didn't really know why, but I decided to change my major to child development from psychology. And that journey took me into specifically early childhood care and education, the creation of learning environments for children from particularly birth to 5, kindergarten entry, and on into a PhD in developmental and child psychology.
Wow.
And by the time I was 30 and a few years into that, I finally went to see a shrink myself about that toxic childhood. And the recovery of my wholeness, the recovery of my humanity from a lifetime, a childhood full of those adverse childhood experiences really led me to the place where I could create what I offer now, which is something called the Self-Aware Success Strategies. And it's comprised of 7 strategies that young children use as their success in relationships from birth to age 7. And I offer them now to adults who can take a look at how their relationships are going and then say, that could be better. How about I trust people a little more? How about I am more honest about expressing what I really want and negotiating to get what I want? How about if I'm, humble enough and also brave enough to tell people my dreams in life? So,
Wow.
That's the journey that got me here. And what we're going to talk about is those success strategies and how we get them for our children while they're young, rather than having them do my development do-overs later.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into that. I am sort of curious just because of what you said, and I've been in therapy myself for a long time. So did you literally go through all of this training, and then when you were kind of finished with that, did you say then at the age of 30 for yourself, you went, wait a second, I'm going to dive back into my own story?
Yeah, well, I think really the evolution of the understanding of the success strategies came after the therapy. So the way I woke up after my 30th birthday was in this state of, I'm a young professional who is esteemed by her colleagues and is growing into a member of the community that is seen as a leader. That's my daytime persona.
Mhm.
And at night, by night, she drinks. She goes to wild parties. She's crazy in her personal life. If people knew how I live my personal life, they'd be like, "What? How can that be this person who sits in this meeting with me during the day?" So I kind of just asked myself the question, gee, maybe there's something wrong with this.
Mm.
And the answer, so obviously, yes, there is something wrong with this, led me to first just some free counseling from a university where, students do practicums
Mhm. Yeah.
and
Right.
have to have a subject.
Right.
So I did a few semesters of that and then got referred to one of the supervisors of one of those students because they were like, oh man, we got some real pile of shite here this woman has to deal with. There's some work that needs to happen here for this girl. Yeah, and so I found a really competent psychotherapist who had a national reputation, actually, in working with women who had murdered their husbands because they were
Abuse.
abused.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was defending the women. That was her what she did when she wasn't doing therapy was she was an expert witness for cases like
Wow.
that. And so she had really deeply learned the dynamics of trauma and
Wow.
sexual abuse and child abuse.
Wow.
Mm. Wow.
So I'm assuming you've already kind of touched on this as we sort of move through this conversation. I mean, obviously, this is a parenting podcast, so a lot of what we'll
Right.
talk about is related to kids. But it seems like what you've already said is, and you're a life coach, so I'm assuming that these strategies, someone who might be listening to this, that maybe they're not a parent or they're thinking about their
Mm.
brother or their mother or their father, are these strategies that can cross over to adult relationships?
I believe this is sort of the basis from which we form our understanding of how to be in relationship with people. Is this pattern from birth to seven?
Hmm.
Mm.
So let me start with the first three because that's really the heart of who we all are, I think, and it's the heart of how parents can support their children no matter what age they are.
Mm.
And so, no, even if your child is 15, you didn't already mess them up and it's too late. You can start any time to support children's use of these strategies for their success,
Hmm.
no matter how old they are. So, think about a newborn infant. A baby comes into the world day one. They have only one strategy available to them to get along with the grown-ups, and that's to trust us. All the people in their world need to be trusted to take care of them. They need to be fed, they need to be kept warm, they need to be kept safe. And so the infant's natural strategy for relationship is I trust you to take care of me.
Mm.
I have needs, you will meet them all as well.
Mm.
Now, sometimes, the infant's life messes with that. The message that the message back from the world is, haha, just kidding, you can't really trust the world. You don't really get your needs met. And that can be so many things that, from everything from a really serious case of postpartum depression
Hmm.
can create that kind of lack of connectivity between the parenting, caregiving adults and the newborn infant. So their needs aren't getting met as consistently.
Or maybe a divorce when
Right?
there's an infant. I mean, is that a circumstance?
Yes. So the 10 adverse childhood experiences are things like divorce and the use of alcohol or drugs by the parent, or the incarceration of the parent, or physical abuse or sexual abuse, domestic violence in the household. They're a defined set of parameters, but there are other things too
Hmm.
that are just day to day disruptions. Just the sheer grinding stress of poverty,
Hmm.
dealing
Mm.
with poverty every day
Hmm.
Yeah.
makes it very difficult to be a present parent to a
Mhm.
newborn infant and to meet that infant's needs. So, but we come into the world trusting people to meet our needs. And so at any point in our adult life, we can take a look at how that's working for us. Am I trusting people to meet my needs? Do I even know what I need? That's a
Mm.
question that for a lot of us is sort of a showstopper right there. I actually have never asked myself the question what I need.
Mm.
Mm.
What do I need from other people in relationship? And so the development do over work that I do in coaching is to invite you to take a look at that. What do you need from people? Let's identify those.
Is that because, wow, I feel like we can dive into each of these. So let's say that has been broken, right? That trust, because you're saying a child comes into the world, obviously, and there's plenty of parents that can show up. Both both parents show up in a trusting way through that developmental period. But if that has been broken or damaged by the 10, maybe one of the 10 things you've listed, and someone has come to you as an adult, what are the strategies then? And I guess what you're talking about is, are you helping that person then get in touch with their wishes, their needs? Like if they come to you and you can maybe recognize like, okay, they didn't get this piece. And then what
Yes.
happens?
I the development do-over work starts with asking the question, what do you need? From other people in relationships, what do you need? And we actually make a list.
That's
Write it
great.
down. And for example, to get really clear about what I'm talking about, I have learned that I need positive affirmation when I do something well. Now, for some people, that would be very hard to say out loud, just those words, that
Mhm.
I need you to tell me good job when I do a good job.
Mhm.
Mm.
People don't like to be needy. So we talk about that too. That's part of the coaching, is to address how it feels to need things like that from other people. But if I know that I need that, then I need to get that somewhere in my life.
And you need to articulate it.
And I need to articulate it to the people who are most important to me.
Mm.
Mm.
Or I need to finally recognize, you know what? I love this person dearly, and they meet other needs that I have, but they're never going to meet that one.
Mm.
They're
Mhm.
just not good at it.
Mm.
And that I'm picking that one because my mother was never very good at the positive praise good girl thing. She's very, very good at telling you what you did wrong,
Mm.
very good critiquer, very good critic and corrector. She was a teacher. And so she taught us from that
Right.
perspective of, this is wrong, fix it. And so I could not my whole life long get that from her. But what I learned was I still need it,
Mm.
and I will need to get that need met somewhere. And so what we as parents can do, grandparents, neighbors, aunties, all of the roles that involve themselves in children's lives, is tell children, I'm here for this need for you. I can be that for you. I can, you can be somebody who needs things for me, and I can be that for you. I can be the one who tells you good job, even though you don't hear it from these other people.
Yeah, what is then like, so let's take trust and some of the strategies maybe a parent can do to increase that sense of trust with the child in that younger age.
I think it starts with noticing that they need things, recognizing that trust isn't a unified on off switch. You don't trust a person or not trust a person. You trust a person to meet a specific need you have. And so you can spread those eggs around in multiple baskets. You can get your needs met by lots of different people. And so for the adult trying to support a child in developing trust, it's about asking, what do you need right now? Or noticing, sometimes we know what they need. I mean, they need attention almost 90% of the time. So you could just start there.
Mm.
Just, I see that you're needing my attention right now. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
Give them, what it is that they need. Or, I can see that you're needing my attention right now. I cannot give it to you because XYZ. Yeah. So once we recognize that we do need other people, we need specific things from other people. It isn't a case of one person meeting all of my needs. There are lots of people in my life who meet individual needs for things like attention, and for positive affirmation, and for what I call positive regard. I love it when I walk into a room and somebody's like, "You're here. Oh, I'm so glad." It's like, I love that feeling. And
Yeah.
people in my life who do that are really precious to me. So just learning what I need, becoming comfortable with the feeling of needing people,
Mm.
that gives me a greater capacity to bring trust into relationships in my life in a way that enriches them.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And so that's the first of three strategies that I think are the heart of us. So shall we move on to the second one?
Sure.
Yeah.
So trust is associated with the infant, is, your first 6 months. And then as you get mobile, as you sit up, as you pull up on furniture and you start to move out into the world, you start moving into the use of the success strategy called independence. And if you've ever met a toddler, you know why I picked that word.
Mm.
Being who you are, independence from the beings that have been taking care of you and meeting all those needs, and that have been also carrying you around and, kind of defining your world for you. You're now like, see ya.
Mm.
And you're on your own legs and you're walking, and they're running after you because you're probably running pretty soon. So that independence is about, so we know what we need now. So as an infant, we found out, oh, I need stuff, and people come, or they don't. And now we're looking at, what do I think? What's my opinion, my belief, my idea right now? What do I feel? What's my emotional state? And what do I want?
Mm.
Not need, but want, like that thing right there, that shiny, exciting thing. It's the crow response in me. I want that shiny wrapper. I need it now. So, what do you think? What do you feel? What do you want? Gets added to what do you need?
Mm.
And toddlers are all about expressing who they are. They're talking all the time, even though we can't understand, like 80% of what they say,
Mhm.
but they're always telling us what they're thinking constantly. They are just wild people expressing their emotions. They have no breaks at all. And any emotion they feel just comes, and they feel them in their body, literally feel them.
Mhm.
They come flooding out, and we are at their mercy.
Yeah.
It's like that. It just happens for them. They're at the mercy too, frankly. And whatever they want, they're going to reach for it. They're going to go for it. There's no impulse control. There's no brakes on a
Mhm.
toddler.
Well,
And
I
right?
can well, I can see Julie smiling because right before you hopped on, Carol, we had a discussion. Julie can talk about it, but she has a 2.5-year-old grandson who just came to New York City. Do you mind talking about
For the
Jamie a
first
little
time.
bit? But also maybe because everything Carol just said is what you were just sharing, but maybe Julie, even like how you guys support that energy around Jamie and his kind of
Yeah. Well, I mean, what one of the stories I was telling Greg was that, this is his first trip to a city. They live in a suburb in Texas. So, to see the city through a 2.5-year-old's eyes was I mean, nothing less than spectacular. So we, provided him with all the experiences, and this is gonna go to your point of independent thought, right? We provided him with all the experiences. We took him to the circus. We took him to the zoo. We took him to a couple of playgrounds. We took him to toy stores that had play spaces where he could play indoors. I mean, we took him absolutely. We enriched we took him to Macy's to see Santa, which if I ever say to anybody I'm going to do that again, hit me because no, thank you. That was awful. He had a good time, but so we provided him with all of these experiences and, curious about like what would be his favorite experience being in New York City. And again, to independence of thought and just allowing them to express what's true for them. His favorite experience was riding the M11 bus, which is
Yeah.
the city
Oh, sure.
bus. That's what he
Yes.
liked,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
nose plastered to the glass, looking at the city go by. I mean,
I could imagine.
public transportation, right?
Yeah.
And that's that independence of thought. And one of the things that I find in my parenting practice is that sometimes if the child's experience doesn't match with what the parent's is or what the parent wants their child's experience to be, they shut it down. They say,
Mhm.
"No, that couldn't be your favorite experience. It had to be the zoo." Or, "No, you liked the person who was doing silks at the circus. That must have been," you know, and I think we shut that down as parents sometimes because it conflicts with what we think the should is in the scenario.
Oh gosh, Julie, you are so on point with that. I see so many times with toddlers that their experience of the world, the adult world, is don't think like that. Don't feel that
Mhm.
emotion. That one's not okay for you. And don't want that. Ooh, that's gross. Or don't want that. That's not right. Or, it's like all the messages are, you're not okay the way you are for a lot of
Exactly.
little kids at this age.
Exactly.
And what we really need for them to know is you're exactly right the way you are.
Exactly.
It should be the exact opposite of that. Everything that you think, feel, and want is just fine. It's uniquely you. Each of these
Yeah.
little beings. That's a really important point. Each of these little beings is a unique person,
Yes.
and from the day they are born.
Yes.
And so we have to really listen to that and
Mhm.
learn who they are.
Mhm.
And yes, it takes time. Yes, you have to slow down. Yes, you have to drop out of adult warp speed
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Well, and I
to
guess
do that.
and it sounds that's how I'm thinking because I watched your TED talk and you talked about that idea a little bit that children are so open and it's like these are my dreams, these are my desires, these are my wishes and that parents can sometimes go that I don't know, you did like 3 or 4 of the ways that parents can kind of shut that down. And
Yeah.
so I guess if we're
Yes.
talking about how can you support it, it's that you as best you can as a parent you show up. It's not about like Julie said going like, "No, no, that's not it."
Yeah, I think a really good role for us with toddlers a lot is simply to be a mirror, an echo, saying, narrating for them what's happening.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, I see you want that. Okay, well, you can pick that up. And this is a dirty thing that I don't want you to have in your hands. So let's take it right over here and put it in the trash. Okay.
Well, yeah, so I
Yes.
guess that's my question for both of you too, because as you're talking about this and I'm listening to it, I guess it doesn't, because boundaries are also mixed in with this too, I guess, right?
Yes. Oh, boundaries are the heart of this. And I like to talk about the toddler experience as learning the first boundaries of identity. This is who I am over here. I have these thoughts. They're not the same as yours,
Mm.
and that's okay. I have these emotions if flooding through my body, and they are not the emotions you're having, and that's okay.
Mm,
And I want these things, and you either don't want me to have them or you want them too, and we're in conflict for them. Okay, we need to work with that. It's like they're learning this is me and that's you. And before they were toddlers, they didn't have that. It's a slow process actually over years developmentally where children learn that there is another perspective beyond their own. And that's why they're so people think of toddlers as selfish,
mm,
but the correct developmental term is egocentric. They
Mhm.
simply think they are the center of the
mm.
universe and they can't help
As they
themselves. It's
as they
natural,
should, though, you're saying.
as they should,
Right,
right?
right.
And they grow out of it. It's a developmental stage.
Mhm.
They don't stay there. But yeah, it's very annoying. But it's also very interesting to watch them do it, to think that. I used to have, when I was early in my career, I ran university laboratory preschools. And so I was the director and a teacher of teachers. And all the time, one of the common patterns was children saying to one of the adults, "Remember last year at my birthday party?" And the person they were speaking to hadn't known them a year ago and hadn't been at the birthday party. But
Wow.
because the idea and the memory of the birthday party is in the child's mind, there's no boundary of identity to say it's not in yours
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah.
And then they grow into that boundary of identity and they recognize you have memories and thoughts and ideas different in your mind than I have in mine.
Mm.
You have feelings in your body that are different than mine. This is the heart of boundaries right here,
Mm.
independence.
Love it.
Yeah. So the third one,
Yeah.
you ready for number
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
of the heart of who we are?
Mhm.
If we can foster these three things in all young beings, what a world it would be. Okay. So trust, independence, and now what I call faith. Faith, not religious faith, but belief in the impossible,
Love it.
belief in the things that should not be, belief in the fantastical things you can't even imagine. And that's what my TEDx talk is about, is
Yes.
that third success strategy, which I was then calling the childhood treasures, but I don't anymore. That third is the sort of anchor point. I think of it as a little triangle base that we stand on. Independence is followed by the expansiveness of the 3 year old's explosion into the world and going, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff that I've been missing when I was paying attention only to myself. And they literally, it's like, I think of toddlers as just kind of, and infants as just kind of focused on their own navels. They're just looking down at themselves. They're trying to figure out how the mechanism works. They're trying to make the body and all the things move together and identify how all this works. And then at 3-ish, they sort of lift their heads up and go, holy cow, all this too? And they like run at life on tiptoes with their arms out going, all the things, all the things. That's a 3-year old.
Yes.
And they have fantastic imagination. They have creative play all of a sudden. They're really engaged in the world in a whole new way.
Mm,
And that ability to bring that sort of brightness of perspective, that interest, that creativity, that wonder to the world, I think that's an essential part of who we are too.
mhm.
Mm.
So those three things, trust, independence, and faith, I call the heart of who we are, the heart of all of our relationships.
And I'm sorry, Julie, were you gonna say something?
Um, no, I mean, I was gonna ask what probably what you were gonna ask either right now or in a few minutes, Greg, which is that how can parents I love the third one so much, and I listened to your TED talk, and I was like, "Oh, man," that it just gave me chills. How can parents do you have any practical strategies for parents to nurture all 3 of them, all 3, but I think especially this idea of faith, because that seems less concrete. We if we meet, the need for trust, that's kind of a
Mhm,
concrete thing we
mhm.
do. We can meet the need for independence, right? How do we meet the need for faith or to nurture the need for faith?
Great question. And I really will say that for all three of these things, we must, as they tell you on the airplane, in case of an emergency, put your own oxygen mask on
Mhm.
first.
Mm,
I cannot foster creativity and sparkle and imagination and faith in a child if I do not have it
mm,
Mm.
mm,
for myself. So if somebody squashed my dreams when I was 3 years old and told me no, I couldn't, and don't be silly, and none of that's real, and those kinds of messages, then how can I support a 3-year-old or an older child in
mm.
that kind of creativity? Because, when a 14-year-old comes down and says, I'm going to design a new video game and it's going to do this, that, and the other thing, what they hear in that next moment is also either fostering faith or not, right? So whatever age they are, I think I started to say this maybe when the furnace came on. I think one of the things that's important is to just recognize that we are a critical mirror for children,
Mm.
and so saying what we see in them, just mirroring back to them what we're hearing, what we think we understand about them, staying creative and curious ourselves,
Mm.
not assuming that we know. When I was, again, in my youth as a preschool teacher and director and teacher of other early childhood teachers, I used to tell the teachers all the time, don't assume that you understand a child's development from seeing one instance
Right.
Mhm.
of something. That's not a pattern. You
Mhm.
need to see a pattern over time to know something about a child's development. Look for the patterns in your child's behavior
Hmm.
and be curious about them. I notice, honey, I notice, darling son, that you have begun to do or stop or changed. This thing is different.
Mm,
Mm.
I wonder if you're aware of that change yourself.
mm,
Mm.
What can you tell me about what you know? Creating a place of curiosity rather than attack.
mm,
Mhm.
And I would refer people to Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication for learning tons more about that.
Mm.
But coming at things from a higher perspective of looking for meaning coming from the child rather than kind of attacking like a jackal. I gotcha.
right.
Right.
Right. Showing up. Let me ask you this, because as I'm listening to you, I'm going in my own head like, okay, do I don't know that I do that for my partner enough. And then I'm also going, I think I did that for my kids. Did I do that for my kids? So if someone is, because I feel like we've talked a lot about like this is the ideal way.
Uh-huh.
If you can do this, amazing. So if someone's listening to this and they have a 16-year-old or a 21-year-old or a 10-year-old and they feel like, I oh no. I I'm not sure I did all of those things, because I'm even having those feelings myself.
Ah.
What would you say to those parents? Is it too late for them?
No, no, start doing them now.
Hmm.
Start doing them now. Here's the way I look at it. I grew up from infancy to age 14 with like all the toxic family things. The list of adverse childhood experiences, which is on my website if you're interested in seeing what they all are, 10 of them. I had 7 in my
Mm,
life. Well, that's like a
Wow.
really, really high ACEs score. I don't really like it thinking of it as a score. It's like, sounds like I'm winning. Oh, 7 out of 10. But that's a score that would predict, in the absence of any offsetting positive experiences in my childhood, that's a score that would predict that by 30 I'd be dead, I'd be addicted to heroin and on the street, I'd be in a mental institution. I mean, that's like not good.
Yeah.
mm,
But I did have offsetting positive experiences. I was very blessed with a lot of positive childhood experiences to balance the scales, and a really incredible fortitude as a temperament,
mm.
Mm.
as an individual
I'm
temperament.
sure that
Because
helped you.
yeah, it did. Yeah. So I just think we want to look at what is real for kids as a trauma, and what is just we're doing the best we can as parents, and we probably didn't do everything great,
Mm,
and we probably did good enough parenting most of the time. And so you can start doing these things anytime. So if you know that if you see evidence that your child has difficulty trusting people in new relationships, has difficulty trusting that they are liked for who they are, that they're accepted, that that it's okay to be themselves, and that their needs will be met in a new group.
mm,
If you see evidence that that's the case, then help them identify what those needs are and help them identify how they're going to make sure to get those needs met. You can have more open conversation about needing things from other people if you're not shy about it, if you're not feeling like it's not okay for you to need things from other people too.
Mhm.
And so that's why I say put your own oxygen mask on first. Do this work
Right.
and know that you are whole interpersonally
Mhm.
before you try to help someone else be whole interpersonally, because it is all about the relationships with everybody.
And I wondered, and Julie, maybe you can speak to this too. So let's say you recognize something in your high school son that he has issues with trust and in relationships, and you kind of are seeing that play out. Maybe you've done the work on yourself enough to know, like, hey, I'm in a place that I can now come. And is it always just about, I mean, Julie and I often talk about curiosity. I think I'm more just like Julie and Carol. I'd love for you to both speak to this too. Like, can we also, and this may be repetitive, I know we've touched on this, can we bear down on like what are the practical strategies that you can do in that situation? Is it showing up and just saying, hey, I notice this thing's going on, is this true, or are do you have questions, are you struggling, I see this repeated pattern, I see that you're upset and you can't make this connection over and over and over. I don't know, Julie, what would you say to that?
Well, I would say that in order to do that, parents first have to put aside their judgment. So when a kid is behaving in a way that we find objectionable or bewildering or, whatever, right? Parents have a tendency to snap to a judgment about it and reprimand the kid, no matter what the age is. And I'm not talking about safety things. Like, if your 2-year-old's about ready to stick a pin in a light socket, go ahead and judge that and jump in. I mean, safety first. But after they kind of get past the dangerous stage of development, and the boundaries, the boundaries are just a little bit broader because they really do have enough knowledge about the world. Parents still stick with that judgment is what I find. So if you find yourself judging, I would press the pause button and say, how can I lean in with curiosity about this? Greg and I have talked about Jane Goodall as, kind of a model for being curious. Because when she studied I can't remember if it was the great apes or, some population, she didn't sit and judge them for their behaviors. She leaned back and went, what does all this mean in the language of apes? And I think when parents can step back and go, what does this mean? What is this child trying to communicate to me? Then not only are we leaning in with curiosity, but we can meet their needs as opposed to, setting up strict boundaries, which sometimes are necessary. But I think the curiosity has to come first.
Oh, I so agree with you. And I think this is right in the middle of the adults need to work on their independence
Yeah.
Mm.
success strategy. Their boundaries of identity get mushy with their kids. And so they judge based on themselves and who they are and what they think is the right way to think, feel, and want in the world. And so when the child is different, the curiosity of, oh, isn't that interesting? My child is different from me. They feel judged. A lot of parents feel judged if their
Yes.
children are different. And it's not a judgment, it's a unique being. Every single one of us, I believe, is here for some kind of purpose. Even if we just think of ourselves as a cog in a wheel, for Pete's sake, we
Mm.
have a specific purpose in life. And so I need to develop to be the person I'm meant to be. I don't want to become another you, frankly,
Mhm.
Yes.
mom, dad. It's like
Right.
let each little being be who they are,
Right.
exactly as they are, and don't worry about what that says about you. That's a healthy boundary of identity in the adult.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Mm.
well put. Yep, absolutely.
This is backtracking maybe a little bit, but I saw this on your website, and you talked about, and this kind of makes sense as I'm listening to this conversation, but you say that a child's primary adult relationship strategies are developed by the age of 4. Can you just talk a little bit about that? And is that because of like the three things you talked about, trust, independence, and faith?
Yeah, so the the three triangle points, the basis that you stand on, the heart of who you are, then you take it out into the world when you're
Mm,
4. So if
mm,
you really just think about the life of a young child, yeah, they're out in the world before that, but they're not really negotiating their own way so much. They're not, making their own way until they're 4. And they develop a success strategy at 4 that's all about getting what they want. So, okay, now I know what I need, and I know how to get what I need. I know what I think, feel, and want, and now I'm going to get what I want
mm,
Mm.
in the world. I'm going to find my people. So I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown's work around belonging
Yes.
versus fitting in,
Yes, I love Brene
right?
Brown.
So the 4-year-old child is looking for his place of belonging,
mm,
where the people like him just the way he is,
Yep.
and where he can get what he wants in a sense of a win-win. I'm a partner with these other people kind of way. And again, if you've ever met a 4-year-old, you understand why I chose negotiation as their success strategy. They do it all the time. It's just like their natural thing. You
mm,
offer A or B, and they want C, and it's got a little bit of A and a little bit of B in it. They're
mm,
pretty artful at it, actually. They're pretty good at negotiating to get inside. The adult has a set of parameters out of which they're offering choice to a
mm,
child,
Mhm.
mm,
and the kid is trying to figure out what the parameters are. He doesn't. He's not so interested in what A and B are. It's like, where did A and B come from?
mm,
Why did I get offered A and B and not D, E, F, and G? And so they're trying over this period around 4 to learn. Okay, so if I say this, will that work?
mm,
Well, so if the parent's offering you want cheese and crackers or apple and peanut butter for morning snack, and the kid's like chocolate cake, well, that's not going to fly.
mm,
Right.
And he learns pretty quickly. They learn pretty quickly that the adult parameters contain certain things and not other things, and they start to kind of artfully request negotiated terms, if you will,
Yes.
mhm,
that will fit inside the adult's parameters. And so they're like, okay, I get it. They're not going to let me have cake. So what do they like? Well, those things they offered, those are like healthy snacks. So,
mhm.
okay, what's healthy that's here that I like? So
Yeah.
negotiating your way into the world. This is like the first business tactic, right? First thing you learn in business school is how to negotiate. So this is the 4-year-old child. They're the little like labor negotiator of the preschool world, and they're all about the win-win. They don't want to get everything for themselves. They want to know what you want as well, and they want to make sure that they get what they want and you get what you want. It's all good.
But depending on how that plays out, the wiring of that's what's so fascinating to me, who's just a parent, is that the wiring of that gets set up that early that then, and as you're talking, like I'm thinking of a few people I know, some young people I know that I can see that the wiring that was set at age 3 or 4 is now playing out in young adult relationships, right?
Yes, and that's why those first 4 to 5 years are so important, because 85% of the human brain is built from birth to 3. We come into the world with a skull full of loose neurons that are not connected to each other for the most part. And everything that happens to us and for us and around us for those first 3 years wires together the neurons until 85% of the brain architecture is created. And then between then and 5, late 4, the rest. So 95% is wired by age 5.
Wow.
And so the success strategies framework that I created goes all the way to age 7,
Hmm.
because what I see is that a whole lot of us in our interrelational selves get created from birth to 5 while the brain's being wired. Most of it from birth to 3 before we can even remember anything.
Hmm.
And then for like 2 years at 6 and 7, we're just practicing being who we are in the world.
Mhm.
We're like, we got the personality now. We got this. We have the strategies we're going to keep using. Either these 7 success strategies or maladaptive kind of dysfunctional alternatives, being codependent, being a victim, being a bully. We figure out other strategies if we don't get to use these.
Right.
Mhm.
So let me finish naming them all so we
Yeah,
get those
please.
in
Yes.
before we're
Please.
done. So
Yeah.
so trust, independence, and faith, and then negotiation for the 4-year-old, vision for the 5-year-old. We have our little strategic planner of the preschool world, having a set goal, an idea to issue forth, to like gather a team around and make happen, vision. And then at 6 and 7, when we're practicing our personality, compromise and acceptance,
Oh.
learning how to be more flexible. Like the win-win one-on-one negotiation of the 4-year-old doesn't work anymore in the world of a
Mm.
6-year-old. There's like 10 people who want 10 things. It's not a one-on-one win-win. And so life gets more complicated, and we have to learn things like, I think everything should be fair, but it's not.
Mm.
Acceptance of life goes up and down. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's not. It's not about me. I get to keep, getting, every time I fall down, I get up.
Mm.
So compromise and acceptance are the last two.
I love it.
And it seems like I just want to kind of reiterate this for a parent that is listening to this and going, "Mm," for either for themselves, for their own childhood, like suddenly going like, wow, I didn't get any of that, or
Right?
I maybe missed out on some of this stuff. I just want to reiterate the point because I'm doing it for myself. Even is that you're saying like you can start now. It sounds like what's important though is that the parent, if they have some real struggles or questions about it, they have to start with themselves first. Put that oxygen mask on, and please, like I'm going to say all of this, and then I tell me if I'm articulating this correctly, but that it's not too late. It's not too late to go back in at any time. Is that right?
Yeah, and I guess that's really the point kind of my early story, is that starting at 30 into therapy to recover from those ACEs
Mm-hmm.
and doing the work. I got sober. I was drinking way too much and had alcoholic patterns in my use. And so I quit drinking. It's been 36, 7 years now, I think. I can't
Good for
remember.
you.
I always have to do the math to get it right, but it's between 35 and 40 somewhere, years without alcohol. And so getting there was the beginning. And then it's all about, I just keep looking for ways to be more whole in my interrelationships with people. There's always recovery. It doesn't matter when you start or how badly you think you're damaged.
Mm-hmm.
There are pathways, there are ways to heal, there are things to do to make life better. And it starts with our relationships with each other. People are not unhappy because the stock market is low. People are unhappy because their relationships with each other are not happy. And so we want to work on our relationships with each other and become people who can be of support and be uplifting and be um, joy creating, not energy draining for
Yeah.
each other.
So to that point, I just want to I think you've made this point, but I want to underscore for our listeners that even though a lot of the wiring is done by age 7, the brain is still plastic enough so that you can
Yes,
recover from the wiring if it was poorly wired. Would you say that's true?
absolutely. And absolutely. And I want to clarify that the work that I offer people, the coaching work, my books, it's all about the behavior patterns in our lives.
Mm,
So I'm looking to help you change your behavior patterns. And through changing your behavior, you rewire your nervous system, you
Mm.
rewire your brain. And
mm,
there are people who do direct modality intervention in your nervous system, EFT tapping,
right.
applied neurology work. There's lots of ways to actually intervene directly in the rewiring of your
Mm.
nervous system, too. And for people who have a lot of trauma in their past, like me, that's a very helpful modality to add
Right.
to the work.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
Can we just end with this might be harder to do with this conversation as I think about it, but when we have guests on, we always like to end because we have this sort of expansive conversation and someone who's just listened to this is about to turn off the episode. Is there one thing that you would say is maybe most important to think about or keep in mind? It might be difficult for this. You can have a couple if you want, but if you wanted parents listening to this episode to walk away with one thing, what would that be?
For parents, I would want them to know it is essential to slow down and observe your child. Stop intervening, stop getting in their way all the time, stop fixing things. Watch them, watch their competence. Each little being comes with so much competence.
Yeah.
There's so much for you to see that is strength, and they can do so much without your help.
Hmm.
Let children explore the world, let them move, let them climb, let them try the things that they want to try within safe parameters. Just think about safety. Don't think about all the stories in your head about what was, your parents told you was okay to be and do.
Hmm.
And just watch your child unfold. Slow
Mhm.
down and watch your child.
I love that. I think that that's so I really do. I think it's so profound and not easy for parents to do, especially in our world
No.
of technology. We're
Hmm.
sped up to the point where it's not good for us as adults. Never mind
Yes.
whether it's good or not for our children. It's terrible for them. And
Hmm.
Yes.
put your cell phone down. Don't have the TV on 24/7. You can't pay attention to all of that at once.
Have family dinner.
Have family
Yes. All those
dinner.
things.
Ju-
Yeah.
and
All
and
those
just
things. Although I gotta say, family dinner in my family was one of the most stressful times of
Yes,
day.
I'm
So,
sure. I'm sure. I'm sure.
but yes, a
mine
healthy family
too.
dinner conversation is great. Yeah,
Carol,
yeah, yeah.
family dinner in my growing up was also very stressful, right? That was not my happy
Yes.
place.
Well, it sounds like okay, so maybe parents do all of the work first and then maybe have family dinner.
Yes.
Yeah, we got it. We have to. Yeah, that's the other. Maybe that's the other big takeaway I would want to reiterate. A third or fourth time. Do the work yourself.
Right.
You as a human being are relating to all other adults and children. You are in a relationship.
Mm,
Yes.
And so do your work about being a relational being.
mm.
Learn to trust differently. Learn to have your independence and your boundaries of identity. Develop your own sense of the big dream and the faith in the world that there's something exciting for you every day. Let that be you so that you can be a healthy support to that emerging in your child.
Great.
That's a great way to end. Carol, thank you for being here. Again, our guest today is Dr. L. Carol Scott. If you want to find out more about her, reach out to her. She has a website. It's lcarolscott.com. You can email her at Carol, Carol, at lcarolscott.com. Find her on Instagram. You can find her on Facebook. Carol, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
We really
I
do.
appreciate being here, Greg. And everybody who emails me is going to get back a little 28-page bookette, my PDF called Become Your Sassy Self.
Oh,
Enjoy
I
that.
love that.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Parenting Horizons podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share with your family and friends. And if you'd like to hear more about Julie's work, join one of her parenting groups, or see about individual counseling, please visit parentinghorizons.com, or you can email Julie at julie.ross@parentinghorizons.com.
We'll see you next time.